Welcome everyone to another edition of the WWV podcast. And as you guys have been hearing for the past couple of days, I cannot go on without doing this. If you smell what WWV is cooking. Now, for this excellent and insightful discussion, we will be discussing and we'll be cooking up a storm here as we discuss the Montreal Screwjob, and we'll be giving an explanation. And I'm joined here with my or good friend as well, the infamous 60-year-old, the Montreal Fiend, Jerry. Welcome.
Hello, Tyrone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to World Wrestling Vision for another episode of the infamous Montreal Screwjob.
Hmm. Righty. So I don't do this often, but if you're watching right now, it says that 3 people are watching, so I appreciate that. But I don't usually do this, but I'm gonna be inviting you guys to just drop a like. It's just gonna take 2 seconds, so that it will help to push even further. But let's not waste any more of your time. Let's us get through the housekeeping matters, and then we'll go into discussing. So how are you doing, the Montreal Fiend?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm doing great. This is, for me and to many, I guess, the biggest event in the history of professional wrestling. And I don't think so. Like, there's anything better in wrestling to talk about this. I have revisited this, I think, at least 500 times, if not more, in the last in the last 28 years. So, yes, still alive to talk about it on your prestigious channel.
I'm gonna correct you once more. It's not my prestigious channel. It is our prestigious channel. You set me up for failure right there. But yes, let us unravel the curtains. Let us pull the curtains and let us divulge into this insightful show that is in store for the audience. So I'm going to be asking you at random some questions, to help you, because obviously anybody that's watching this, you can obviously tell that I'm not that old to have much of a solid remembrance of it, or even to have existed then to say that okay, first hand account I would have seen this. So why not bring in the seasoned veteran, the 60-year-old Montreal Fiend, to help to reflect on a very exciting, uh, exciting and insightful. Two words coming together in my head at the same time.
A very dark
But
night, a very dark night.
yeah, yeah, indeed. So let's start with that. Let's just go into the screw job itself. What happened in the screw job? Let's just start there. As you just said, it was a extreme night. So what exactly happened during that match between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels? And how did the crowd react, you'd say?
Wow. So where do I start, So first of all, I think it will be very important for me to tell the modern audience and whoever is watching, and of course we know from the analytics a lot of people are tuning in, watching, and thank you for the support. So this is very important before we dive into it, right? Because if someone is not aware of it, of course, because they are younger, they were not there or they have not heard about it. So if we just go and analyze, in my opinion, I think they will perhaps think that this is a storyline that we are talking about, just like every other wrestling thing that we talk about or will talk about. So this is not a storyline at all. There's no storyline attached to it. So this is 100% or even beyond that, 101%, just to give an idea. Real, like real. It's not a storyline. It's a real life event. That's why it's so shocking. So yes, having said that, to give the idea to the audience, um, Montreal Screwjob. Like you asked me to just give you a brief overview, and of course, when you'll ask questions, so we can answer specifics. So it all came about. Of course, we'll talk because if I just go and answer, it will be just in one go. So I'm sure you will. You have different questions related to it. So it. So I'll just go to the end rather than the start because the next question will take the whole journey. If I start from here, then it will be difficult to maintain the flow because it's an open-ended question, right? So the Montreal Screwjob. First, let's start with the end. First, let's start with the end. And with the end, I mean, what's Montreal Screwjob? What's the definition? If you go and check the definition 101, so it's an event. It's Survivor Series 1997. Bret Hart, WWE champion, versus Shawn Michaels, and the finish was forced. Like Bret Hart was not told, right, that he will lose this match. Bret Hart was told that there will be a disqualification and he will retain the title. There will be an outside interference and he will retain the title. But the insiders, which of course we'll discuss as we progress, decided privately that they will screw Bret the Hitman Hart from the championship. Why they did that? What transpired? Of course, I'm sure you have spicy questions related to it. So it's so important, I think, for me to first tell, as I already explained, what's it's real. It's not a storyline, and it's best to start with the end. That's why told the audience that Bret the Hitman Hart did not know, or I mean, knew like every other wrestling match, but the result was something else. The result was a shocker, and he was screwed in real time, in real life, from the title by a few chosen men. Yes, Ty, are you there?
I am here. I was having some mic issues. Anyways, all right. So yeah, so you basically gave the overview of what transpired, and I think for any of the younger fans, myself included, of wrestling, this is something that I'm sure you must, if you're actually a true fan, and that's not to say that if you don't know about this, you're not a true fan, but this is something that has been mentioned. And I don't want to really touch on the fact that it's been mentioned a lot because one of the questions does touch on that. But this is something that is historic. It's something that it's often mentioned quite a lot. And as I said, I wasn't alive at that point. I wasn't even a thought yet. But probably giving away my age. But in the sense of all of that, it does give you that sense that you know it wasn't a storyline. It was literally, as the name says, a screw job. So when people hear of Montreal screw job, like, whoa, what's screw job? What are you talking about? But when you realize that literally Shawn Michaels would have been viewed as being screwed out of this match, um, that's literally the case when it comes on to this. But yeah, back to the question I would have asked. Um, you touched on it. You mentioned it. The fact of what the aftermath of it was. The fact that the result went in a way that it wasn't expected. It wasn't expected that he was going to lose, but that's what transpired. So I mean, thinking about the screw job and then thinking about where it happened as well, it made me wonder: was it a case where because and he in this context is Bret Hart, because he's in Montreal and Montreal is obviously in Canada. Was that the reason why they wanted? Because he's in a place that it's in Canada and all that. Was that the case? I don't know what you think, Jerry, but that's what came to my mind when I thought about it.
And that's why we are doing the show. That's why we are doing the show and trying to clear the narrative and some of the narrative that is out there, speculation. So that's my job to clarify and to give the real picture to the audience. No, 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 not at all. A lot of people, not a lot. I think there's a very small section of analysts and journalists and insiders who say that. I think it's not even 10%, but they are there, 8 to 10%, who put the blame on Bret Hart that because, as you said, he's Canadian, he was so big at that time, it was in Montreal, in Canada. So he didn't want to lose to I'm saying he didn't want to lose to Bret Hart, to Shawn Michaels. So no, not at all. No, it's clear that was not the case at all. So I have to go back a little bit so people can then understand. Like I have to, I'll take some time, not a lot, but I have to d- go back to for the modern audience or the young audience, I should say, because I thought I'm still, I think I'm still modern. So at this age, but for the new, intelligent, dynamic audience, it's important for them to, like, they know Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, to understand a little bit more. So back in, and I'll be quick, in the 80s and early 90s, it was all about big. With big, I mean like 6'4" plus, 6'3" plus, 300-pound plus athletes. That was the time in the early part of professional wrestling, WWE. So Hogan, like Warriors, Andre the Giant, Zeus, King Kong Bundy, and all these athletes, like Hercules, so Demolitions. You need to be big. You need to be very big. It's not that Bret Hart is small, but you need to be very, very, very big, very powerful. Like you have to be like a superhero. You need to have big muscles, 20-inch plus. So that was selling. That was Vince McMahon's idea, right? That what he was going. He had the sets, wrestling sets, as well the toys that were the most selling product for a while, and different stuff. So it was targeted towards like the younger audience to get connected with like the Superman or the He-Mans of that time in professional wrestling. All of that changed forcefully again. That the thing that happens organically is the best thing, right? Because all of these superstars, it's not that they're all clean now. Most of them are, but at that time, everyone was taking steroids, anabolic steroids. Everyone was taking, and they were jacked up. So US made it mandatory in 91, I believe, 90 or 91, that the steroids will have to be banned. Like the anabolic steroids, where you take them for performance enhancement. So professional wrestlers, because Vince McMahon requirement was to have big bodies, big muscles, they would always all take it. So including Hulk Hogan. So because of this ban, and of course professional wrestling is sports entertainment, but it was also applied to that. So that became a serious issue overnight, like how WWE will move forward. All of the superstars they have, developed or pushed are huge guys. So eventually, Ultimate Warrior left the WWE. Hulk Hogan had to leave. Vince McMahon had to request him that to leave because the investigation was going on. A lot of wrestlers were found in the dope test positive, and it became, WWE went to a trial or court for that as well. So for Vince McMahon wanted to ensure, WWE took a huge toll in 91, early 92, to save the image of wrestling. Like he requested Hulk Hogan to leave then because Hogan wasn't tested. So if Hogan were to be tested, and at that time when Hogan was like biggest thing ever, it could have really, maybe they could have gone out of business. So it was that bad. So they changed Psycho Sid Justice at that time, Psycho Sid, Shawn Michaels bodyguard, everyone left, right? Not everyone, like most of the top names left, either left or they were caught by the federal board. So Vince McMahon had to make a decision like, where will the company go now? Where will the company go? How should he operate? And Bret Hart was, and both of them, Shawn Michael and Bret Hart, like the guys who were not like 6'4" plus, 300-pound plus, but the top performers. Shawn Michael was in Rockers, the tag team with Marty Jannetty. outstanding matches. You can see Bret Hart was in Hart Foundation with Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and Bret Hart had already amazing single matches with Mr. Perfect, Roddy Piper. So Bret Hart was pushed by Vince McMahon to be the guy, to be the next phase of this new era, who is not a huge guy and who is so technical. So he relied on him. 1992, I'm talking about. So Ric Flair was the champion who came from WCW. Bret Hart defeated Ric Flair. Rest is history. So I'll move forward. So I had to mention that Shawn Michaels was like the Intercontinental champion at that time. Bret Hart was the world champion, and both of them like really in the one of the most difficult time of the for WWE, they carried the company. And with their matches, with their unbelievable performances, storylines, I don't think so I have ever seen any two wrestlers like that. So it became a real life competition then. Like Bret Hart was ahead of Shawn Michaels and from 92 onwards. But Shawn Michaels came on his own, but outstanding matches. They pushed each other to limit. 93, 94, eventually winning the Rumble in 95, losing to Diesel. And then, so Shawn Michaels' popularity like came very close to Bret Hart's. So Bret Hart was dominant champion from 92 to 96, of course, losing to Yokozuna and other in the middle. So moving forward after giving this perspective so people can understand. So they were friends first from the tag team, different tag team at that time, but they started building animosity from 94 to 96. They didn't really like each other. They had backstage fights, many issues. They both wanted to be the number one, like in real. So eventually, Shawn Michaels won the second back-to-back Royal Rumble, second Royal Rumble in '96, and Bret Hart was the champion. That was the Iron Man match I'm talking about, the 60-minute, in which Shawn Michaels defeated Bret Hart and won the title. So now, when and it was a good move, I would say it was a great move. Bret Hart was the dominant person. Shawn Michaels was working so hard and eventually won. That was all great. So Bret Hart was told or promised by Vince McMahon that you do the favors here. Bret Hart never had any issue. Like they didn't like each other. Bret Hart never said he won't lose to Shawn Michaels at the first place. So the match at WrestleMania 12, they had no issue. Bret Hart was more than fine to let Shawn Michaels take the spot. More than fine. No issue. No, it doesn't exist anywhere. But Bret Hart was told, here is the thing. After giving all the perspective and how both of them carried the wrestling forward with such changing landscapes, Bret Hart was said that next year, 97 WrestleMania 13, in a rematch, you will win against Shawn Michaels, the second match. And that's where it all went wrong. Bret Hart took a leave because he was really exhausted. He was fighting for years. And for 6 months, he took a leave. He came back. So when he was coming back, Eric Bischoff, and it's 96, before Bret Hart came back to WWE in October 96. WCW were already huge in May, June 96 with the NWO angle, Kevin Nash, Razor Ramon going there. So Eric Bischoff contacted Bret Hart to join WCW. So overall, long story short, Bret Hart showed loyalty towards WWE as someone who grew up in the company. His father trained many wrestlers, and the how he carried the company with pride and had a great relationship with Vince McMahon. So, but Eric Bischoff insisted that at least have a talk. Bret Hart said we can have a talk. They had a talk, and in that talk, Bret Hart declined. Sorry, that he don't want to join WCW with all due respect, and thanked Eric Bischoff for his gesture. But Eric Bischoff said, "Okay, at least tell me something what you want. Just tell me anything. I'll do it for you. Anything." Brett said, "How much is Hulk Hogan making in WCW?" Bischoff laughed and said, "That's ridiculous, and I can't even tell." But Bret Hart said, "You said anything." So he said 5 million plus. He said, "I want the same, exactly the same, and maybe more, 1 penny more. Then I'll come to WCW." So even Eric Bischoff, after a while, after a few days, called him and said, "We can work on it. I can match your pay for Hulk Hogan." But Bret Hart told Vince McMahon that he will come back to WWE in 1996. But Bret Hart did tell Vince McMahon what Eric Bischoff is paying him, what he is ready to pay him up till which extent. Vince McMahon, who WWE, who were not doing that great at the time because WCW already were defeating them on Monday Night Wars and taking their superstars, told Bret Hart that I would love you to be here. I appreciate your loyalty. So let's find some solution. After a few days, Vince McMahon, with his lawyers, came up with a 20-year contract for Bret Hart in 1996. That was to expire in 2016. And that 20-year contract was 3 to 4 years as a professional wrestler on whatever wage, and then 16, 17 years loyalty. Of course, not huge, nothing like a WCW, what Eric Bischoff was offering, maybe 20% of that, but spread of over 20 years to show financial stability. That even when you retire, we'll pay you a good enough amount for being loyal to us. Bret Hart and Vince McMahon agreed, and a 20-year, infamous 20-year, bro, 20-year contract was signed between Bret Hart and Vince McMahon. WCW eventually started getting more and more dominant with the NWO, and they were hitting the peak, and WWE were struggling. And so much so, the attendance, sponsorship, gate revenue, ratings declined very bad. So after signing this deal, after a couple of months, like Vince McMahon was thinking how he can entertain Bret Hart's 20-year deal. He realized he made a mistake of signing Bret Hart on this deal. Keep this in mind and decide, and audience can figure what they want from this. So moving forward now to the Shawn Michael Bret Hart situation. So Bret Hart and Shawn Michael were to face at WrestleMania 13, right? So I'm talking of both things side by side. Back to Shawn Michael and Bret Hart. I'm now in '97 when this event happened. So Bret Hart and Shawn Michael, yes. So Shawn Michael was the champion, right? And he first lost to, I mean, he defeated Bret Hart, right? He eventually lost to Psycho Sid, in '97 Survivor Series, but in the rematch at San Antonio, Texas, at his hometown at the Royal Rumble in front of 62,000 fans, Shawn Michael defeated Sid to become the champion again. And then it was supposed to be Bret Hart versus Shawn Michael at WrestleMania. Everything was set before Shawn Michael told Vince McMahon and told everyone that he has lost his smile, he is injured, he cannot participate at WrestleMania. And Shawn Michael was not a part of WrestleMania 13, to which there is no proof. A lot of spectators, analysts, skeptics, and Bret Hart say that it was Shawn Michael played politics. Shawn Michael deliberately acted that he's injured. He was never injured. There is no injury. He never had any operation. He didn't want to drop the title to Bret Hart. He did not want to face Bret the Hitman Hart. That's where it really got bad. Bret Hart was like, okay, he's not giving me my spot. Then the main event was Undertaker versus Sid. But for Undertaker, he won the title. And a positive thing. Let's see what positive came out of it. I'll say there's some positive came out of it. We saw the infamous, one of the best matches ever between Bret Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin instead of WrestleMania 13. So you can see how good Bret Hart and why I and many rated him, even though his promised title and his second match with Shawn Michael, in which he had to win, did not go through. But he, with Stone Cold Steve Austin, planned one of the best matches ever. What a professional man! So moving forward, when Shawn Michael came back, uh, let's go now to the end of this now. SummerSlam 1997. So 3 months before the event, right? Bret Hart, Undertaker was a champion as he won the title at WrestleMania, right? By defeating Sid. So the match was between Bret Hart and Undertaker at SummerSlam '97, with Shawn Michael as the special guest referee. So over here, of course, Bret Hart won the title when Shawn Michael was to hit Bret Hart with the chair, but Bret Hart ducked, hit Undertaker, and Bret Hart got the pin. It was a horrible move, in my opinion, from Vince McMahon when he told Bret Hart that he cannot entertain your deal. And we are talking about late August, 2.5 months before or 3 months before Montreal Screwjob, when Bret Hart and WWE already know or knew he's leaving because Vince McMahon requested him to go to WCW. I cannot pay you. Why, first of all, put the belt on Bret Hart? Why? Audience need to think and make their own points, right? Okay. Bret Hart, and in the meantime, Bret Hart contacted, of course, before SummerSlam and talked to Eric Bischoff. He didn't want to do it. He was very sad, and he said that I'm coming to WCW, and this is what happened. But of course, he was then signed at 2.8 million, which was not like close to five, which could have happened back then. But Bret Hart took it like he was not happy at all, but he realized that Vince McMahon is not able to go through the contract, so he'll go to WCW. But he was very professional and was trying to give his best in his last days of WWE. So now, and so Bret Hart went to Survivor Series as the champion. Shawn Michaels had a match with Undertaker in September in your house, and which there was a lot of outside interference, and that they had a rematch in Hell in a Cell, Bad Blood, where Kane made his debut. Shawn Michaels won. That match was that match was okay, no problem. That match was supposed to be the winner will take on the champion. So Shawn Michael won thanks to the interference of uh, Kane. So Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels. So my question to everyone is, why was this match set up? First of all, why was Bret Hart given the WWE title by Vince McMahon at SummerSlam when Vince McMahon himself did not, you can say, respected the deal, or with his financial issues, really requested Bret Hart to leave? And when Bret was the champion, why a few weeks, I think maybe 2 or 3 before him joining WCW, you had a match with Shawn Michaels? Here it went wrong. The final nail in the coffin. Your question that Brett didn't want to lose at Montreal. You can decide. The fans can decide. I've given every evidence, everything, letter to letter, word by word, facts. I can interpret with my brain. You can interpret it with your brain. The fans can interpret with their brain. Sorry. So in the locker room, and it was said that Bret Hart will lose to Shawn Michaels because Bret Hart is going to WCW. So Bret Hart had to give the belt. So Bret Hart said, and they met in the locker room in the shower, right? So Bret Hart said that, okay, you don't worry. Although, like he said this is the last time, like they're talking. This is the last match they're about to have in 2 weeks. So I'm paraphrasing, of course. So he said, of course, we don't like each other. I don't appreciate you at all. What you are doing, the politics that you're playing, and how you didn't want to lose to me at WrestleMania. I understand that, but being a professional that I am, Brad is saying to Shawn, and I will do you the favor, and you don't have to worry about anything. You'll be safe with me, because they hated each other to that extent that Bret had to assure Shawn Michaels that you will be safe. Like Bret Hart won't really beat his ass in the match, and you don't have to worry about anything. It got even worse. Bret Hart's Shawn Michaels said, "Thank you so much." I'm paraphrasing. "Thank you for what you said, and it's a nice gesture, but I wouldn't have done the same. I won't do the same for you." Bret Hart then decided he will not drop the title to Shawn Michaels. No, no, he will not. He will not drop the title. After he said what he said to Shawn Michaels, he said he would not have done the same for him. Then he told Vince McMahon that he will not lose to Shawn Michaels. He will not drop the title to Shawn Michaels. And he said that if you have two options, either you cancel this match, put a Shamrock or the Undertaker or Stone Cold Steve Austin, I'll lose to them. I'll give them anyone. I'll lose to them. I don't have any problem losing to them. Or if you want this match to go ahead, then they planned like a disqualification. Okay, you don't want your boy, your poster boy, your new boy, because I'm going to WCW, Shawn Michaels, the sexy boy, to lose because, oh, the WCW Bret Hart defeated Shawn Michaels, and now like he defeated your top guy and he went to WCW. I understand, Bret said, but then let's do something. Let's have a disqualification, and then I'll lose it on Monday Night Raw to whoever you want. Now, Vince McMahon, according to many people, agreed to that. But God knows, like knowing Vince McMahon how cruel he is, what he was thinking at that time, right? But when it was such a heated situation and WCW were really like threatening them out of business or really like posing so many challenges for WWE, the issue was that Vince was like saying, like, Bret Hart is going to WCW, he's the champion. He was worried about this whole situation. So their secret meetings in Vince McMahon house with Vince McMahon, Pat Patterson, Jim Cornette, my favorite, Vince Russo, they had meetings over 2 3 nights before Survivor Series. Jim Vince Mc, they came to through the discussions they came to this not conclusion, yeah, conclusion you can say, or to this reservation. What if the match ends in a disqualification and Bret Hart don't drop it later and take this belt to WCW? We will be gone. We won't have any existence. Their fear was, Vince McMahon fear was that Bret Hart may not lose on Raw. He may cross them, like Bret Hart may cross them and just go to WCW with the WWF title. So they said that will be death for WWE. That will destroy the company. That was the fear. But again, I would say it was ridiculous. Bret Hart had the best credibility, or the top credibility, or top respect and trust in the industry. He was always the team player. So Jim Cornette was the person who suggested to Vince McMahon, don't take a risk, and told him what to do is to double cross him. When he told him to double cross him, Vince McMahon did not understand. Then he explained several few years ago in another wrestling company, such an event happened. So he said that because in the match it was booked that Shawn Michael would put Bret Hart in the sharpshooter, as audience can see in the picture. And of course, Bret will reverse and the match will continue for the next 15 minutes or so. But he said this is the perfect position. It's what picture you have put, right? Because Shawn is on top. Because if on any other situation you would screw him and take the belt from him either with a pinfall or any other situation when Bret Hart is up or Bret Hart's face is back, like his chest or he can quickly get up, right? It can be dangerous for Shawn Michael or the referee or someone else. They were worried to that extent. They were like, because he would put him in a sharpshooter, that would be the perfect situation, because as soon as he put it there, the referee was told, Shawn Michael knew that he will ring the bell, like showing the fans that Bret Hart had tapped, and referee would run away, and of course Shawn Michael would pretend that he's shocked as well. When you can see and go back and take a look, Shawn Michael showed complete shock what happened. This is the Montreal Screwjob.
All right, wow, that's a lot. That was a lot, and very insightful as well. Um, I heard from the grapevine that there was a clause in Bret Hart's contract called the reasonable cause clause. Was that actually the case, or reasonable creative control clause?
That is correct.
Where,
That is
where, where,
correct. It is called creative control for superstars who are like Shawn Michaels or Undertaker, Hogan's of that time. They can protect themselves if they want. That is true, but he was not really protecting him. As I have in depth recalled everything step by step, it all transpired with a series of events, and then Bret Hart then decided not to lose to Shawn Michaels. So one can say that he was using it as a selfish person, so people can interpret the way they want. But for me, with substantial, overwhelming evidence, where you can write 10 books on it, if I was like Bret Hart, I would have done the same. I would have even like hit, taken on Shawn Michael. When he said that, I would have punched him right away, 3 weeks before the Survivor Series.
Wow. But do you really think that because of this, Bret Hart actually left because of that? Because I made a mistake early on. I had a Steve Harvey moment. I said Shawn Michaels was the one that lost, but it wasn't him. It was actually Bret Hart. I have that lapse in concentration. But yeah, it happens to the best of us. But yeah, do you think that actually was the reason why Bret Hart left because of this screw job, or do you think it was just a case where
No. Bret Hart
it could
was
have been
already
something?
leaving 3 months before this screw job. Vince McMahon told him that you have to go to WCW. He already talked to Eric Bischoff. From August 2024 or early September 2024. Come on, man. 1997. I'm still thinking about our last season, right? Okay. 97, early September, Bret Hart was leaving. Everyone knew. It's not because of Montreal Screwjob. No. I think you missed the point when I was explaining, or maybe I didn't explain well, that everyone knew that this would be the second last match of Bret Hart, and then he will lose to whoever on Raw. Bret Hart was leaving. That's why they wanted Shawn Michaels to win. So, because he's going from the company, how can he go as a champion, right? That's why I'm saying, why put the belt on Bret Hart then at SummerSlam 3 months ago when he was leaving? That was the worst decision ever. For me, the worst decision is why even made it the champion when he's leaving. When Undertaker was the champion at SummerSlam, let him be, or let Shawn Michaels be the champion at SummerSlam, or whoever. So Bret Hart, as I said, with the 20-year contract that they signed in October of '96, around April or May of '97, Vince McMahon told him that he cannot offer to pay him. The company is going out of business because of WCW's dominance. It was a bad time. '97 was the '96, '97 were the worst years financially for WWE. So,
Yeah, fair enough. But but,
so
but do you
yeah,
think that that's one of the reasons why Vince McMahon and Shawn Michaels got such a big backlash because they would have been saying why would you want to add salt to injury in terms of what you just said about in terms of the financial issues, WCW obviously dominating and all that. So do you think that that was one of the reasons why they got the backlash? Because definitely there's been a lot of backlash and a lot of people have been saying that particular instant solidified Vince McMahon as being that evil boss. So do you think that because of that, it solidified the fact that financially it made no sense because they run the risk of actually losing more support.
yeah, I mean, yes, that's interesting. First of all, both Shawn Michael and Bret Hart were loved by the fans, right? They both were famous. Both were the top two superstars. At this time, Shawn Michael was a heel. I'm just saying that did not help. Bret Hart was a babyface. So, but they never, fans didn't care who was a heel or who was a babyface. The general fan on the street, everyone was shocked of like what happened. It was a massive shock that in real they screwed Bret the Hitman Hart from the title, and it hurt to even Shawn Michaels fan knowing that Bret Hart, what he did for the company, didn't deserve to go out like this. This was the big pain. This was the big pain. Like, and I question everyone around me, my friends and family, and the dreams I had that people will cheat me. And I saw some of the people still playing politics, unfortunately. So my confidence was shaken with the Montreal Screwjob. The world is it's not all roses, bed and roses. You have to be careful. So this really affected my mental health. I was for 2 3 months I could not sleep. I was like, Bret Hart, this guy was screwed by Vince McMahon. Like, if someone cannot respect Bret Hart for what he has done for the company, I was like, no matter what I do, I cannot trust the boss is above me, and it showed last year, unfortunately, Tyrone. So, so the thing is with Vince McMahon and Shawn Michaels, right? With Vince McMahon and Shawn Michaels, with Shawn Michaels, like he took a different route. People, when he came to he was in DX as well, so it helped him because he was a heel. It helped Shawn Michaels. So everyone was like, Brett, you screwed Brett, sorry, chants. Uh, with Vince McMahon, the next Raw. And don't forget that backstage, Bret Hart punched Vince McMahon, like in real life also. When he went in, he called for Vince McMahon, and Vince said, "You can do whatever you want." Vince was scared for his death, so he allowed Bret Hart to punch him, and Bret punched him. He got a black eye. You can, the clips are there. So Bret, in real life, knocked Vince McMahon backstage after this event at Survivor Series. And Shawn Michael told him that no, like he don't know. He promised him, and Bret Hart believed him that night. Earl Hebner, the referee, ran away, took the car, ran literally for his life, and left the arena. So back to your question, Shawn Michaels, if anything, it helped in terms of he was a heel with DX, and he played a bigger heel now, an edgier heel with Triple H. As far as Vince McMahon goes, when he came to Raw, I mean, he didn't come out. He had a black eye. There's this interview you guys can see. He was telling everyone in the recorded interview with Jim Ross that Brett screwed Brett. And what he was trying to say over here, although he's shrewd, intelligent person, very calculated, meticulous, he knows what he's doing. So what he put out there in terms of dictionary definition, in terms of the whole presentation, it was fine. What he was saying that time, honor, and tradition. He was talking about time, honor, tradition, which is to do your job, to give back to the wrestling world. One, because it's scripted. So if we did this for you, time, honor, tradition. If you're going, you do your the favors. So he used all of that to tell people that Bret Hart did not honor, which is true. But with 1+ year of history and several years of history leading up to the last year, what I told, if you go and do the research, as I said, and look into 100 things plus, you will understand that there was like an ocean behind it. But Vince was just told him that like Fred did not want to lose to Shawn Michaels. He was so selfish. He was so arrogant. He only thought about himself. He never cared for the fans. We made him. What he did, he refused. So we had to do this. He put that out there. But
Wow.
Tyrone, the fans were intelligent. Thank goodness. The fans were more in what I saw. So vast majority of the fans knew that what Vince McMahon is doing here. So then the Mr. McMahon character was born forcefully because Vince was booed out of the building. Hogan was nothing. Vince was hated, booed. Everyone hated Vince McMahon, and this monster was created. So it all went in favor of WWE with Austin Rock over there as well.
Wow. I mean, I was gonna ask you that question, but based on what you just said, I don't know if I should ask you. I was gonna ask, do you think that based on what you just said, and this is just your opinion, do you think that it was justified, given the fact that you said why did he put the belt on Bret Hart, considering the fact that he was gonna be leaving eventually, or do you think that it was actually a screw job?
Yeah, it was the screw job of the highest order. Like it's unanimous. Like if you go and hear just about anyone, maybe like after 100 videos or 100 newsletters, podcasts, maybe someone will say, no, Bret Hart deserved this. So people like Bret or don't like. I love Shawn Michaels as a performer, and then he changed as a person.
Mm-hmm.
He's a person. We are all for improving. I improve, you improve. We all talk about it to improve every day. The thing is that Shawn Michaels is a different person. Shawn Michaels as a person changed, and it's not Shawn Michaels' fault. It's Vince McMahon's fault. It's I don't blame Shawn Michaels over here. Yeah, what Shawn said to Bret Hart, of course. I was talking about like I don't want to contradict myself. The booking has nothing to do with Shawn Michaels. That's why I'm saying it has nothing to do with Shawn Michaels. But what Shawn Michaels said to him, that's his fault, of course, as a very mean, vicious political person. That when Brad is saying, I'm okay to lose to you, don't worry, I'll lose to you. In the locker room, he said, no, I won't do the same for you. So So I'm just saying that Shawn Michael was very political, and people can do their own research in the 90s, but Triple H was like very selfish, brilliant athlete, and then as a human being he changed after his injury. And unfortunately, like whatever Vince did, and then Shawn Michael was supposed to be the top guy, didn't happen. In 3 months they had a match with Shawn had a match with the Undertaker, a casket match, Royal Rumble '98. When Shawn Michael fell on his back on the side of the casket and literally like broke his back. He had an operation
Hmm.
so bad that he was out for 4.5 years from WWE. So this is how real wrestling is, guys who say it's fake, and also the Montreal Screwjob. So and when Sean came back, he came as a changed man. He was one of the best person as a human being. So I don't know like if how can I mean people have the I'm all for empowerment of different views, no problem. I don't mind if anyone will blame Bret Hart. Some people do. Some people still say that he should still have lost to Shawn Michaels. He should still have whatever Shawn said to him. He should have ignored that. It's up to people too. But for me, like I think this, I don't know. For me, I'm like, no, man. Like if there's so much history and when he's being disrespected, then it's it's not about that. So um, people can I've already given the context. People can make their own judgment. So the biggest devil over here, I think, is Vince McMahon. First of all, for giving him a 20-year contract. Okay, if there's financial issues, then try to solve it. First of all, if not, then first you did not allow him to go to WCW when he was about to get 4 to 5 million per year. He came back, did everything for you. You told him you're really sorry, you cannot pay him. You leave. He talked to Eric Bischoff, which he never wanted to, and agreed to go to WCW. Then he kept on performing against Austin. He Austin acknowledged it. You don't have to go with my word that Bret Hart elevated him to the level he is. Check his podcast. He had incredible matches with different wrestlers. Owen Hart, Undertaker at SummerSlam, another other pay-per-views, and he was doing his best. He was turned heel as well. Like he was interesting in 1997. He was a heel in US and a babyface in Canada. That was such a hybrid, as we talk in football, the hybrid approach. Vince said, so Brett also thinks that he wanted to, like, he knew that he's going. So Brett even thinks that Vince wanted to, like, ensure that people don't like Bret Hart. So he started this, which we were talking now. You know, in modern wrestling, you may not do that, like USA versus Canada or Canadians don't like US. All that angle was there, like Bret Hart coming with fans and saying Canadians are better than US and all that. So he in '97, like he was a heel in this way, like with Stone Cold and others. But he whenever they will go to Montreal or had this event, a July pay per view, I believe, before SummerSlam, he has a 5 win tag team main event at Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So he that was the role. He did everything which was asked for him. And Undertaker even said the '97 match that he had with Bret Hart. Undertaker debuted in 1990 Survivor Series, right? So after 6 years and 9 months, Undertaker said he learned how to do top matches, being in his character, because in his character he could not like sometimes he would be restricted to do the moves, so he would like how he gets up and moves. So Bret Hart with he learned from Bret Hart in training, and he found that sweet spot Undertaker that he can have great matches. So if you see from 1990 to '97, Undertaker matches were just okay-ish. But with this match against Bret Hart at SummerSlam '97, you see Undertaker started to having amazing matches, and with Shawn Michaels later. So the so that was so hard. Even after 28 years, I'm in pain.
Yeah, I can tell. I can see it, man. I can see it. So, and that leads me to my last question as well. Do you think that it would have, if the Montreal Screwjob, do you think it would have had the exact same impact that it has in this um, era as it did then, or do you think that the impact could have been as big as it is now, or do you even think that something similar, a screw job, could happen with John Cena, for example, or do you think that that's for a stretch? Because a lot of people have been mentioning the screw job as something that could happen to John Cena.
So in this, I'm clear, and again, it's my opinion. I think no, no, no. Now, not even 5%. The impact would be that, and here are some of the reasons. Number one, back in 1997, I don't have the stats, of course, as a statistician. I should have, but I can say at least 25% of the audience would still consider wrestling to be unscripted. First of all, this is one big thing. Please understand. Number two, the kayfabe. Even though people knew if it's scripted and it's entertainment, the kayfabe was protected. Not like when Triple H in Raw and Netflix, we did not discuss that. He was talking about face and heel and this and that, which is another criticism. I don't know. It should not be revealed like this, man. And Rock appreciating Cody Rhodes. So they all played the characters in as real as possible. So the short answer is because it was presented so real, and Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, and the rivalry was in real life like a heated rivalry, like they hated each other. So if it had to happen, I don't know, people would have to take wrestling more seriously, and I don't think so. People do as they did in '97. So that's the short answer for you this time.
Well, I mean that's a fair point. I mean I don't know. I just want to add this. In terms of what you just said about the whole thing with Raw, Netflix, and all that. I just find it hilarious because it's like what you like. It's like when you see a play, and before the play starts, like you can tell that okay they're not acting, or as people say, wrestling is fake or scripted, which to some extent yeah, because well most of the results are planned ahead. But in terms of the way how it started, like it's like you're preparing to watch like a movie or a play. So you have the chief content officer in Triple H coming on and saying that, oh, are you ready for Raw? And like it doesn't it give it. I get it's a premiere, but I mean like it's like a movie premiere. Like, are you ready to see this emphatic thing that's going to be happening after I leave? And then The Rock comes on and he everything that happened in 2024 derails, beating up Cody Rhodes and all that. So I agree with you. I don't think that the impact would be probably the same because a lot has changed since that 2 decades, almost 3 decades now. Um, so I think people would probably say, "Oh, it was planned." That so I mean, so all of that, and I mean, a lot of people still argue that it was scripted. I mean, that's something that makes this conversation so controversial. Because Montreal Screwjob is always mentioned in and around the time of SummerSlam or Survivor Series when they talk about Bret Hart having the title and when he lost it and all that. It's something that people still talk about, and even the fact that Bret Hart came back in 2024, and then what Gunther said about him being his second favorite, and then Goldberg being his first. A lot of things that you're trying to see that they're trying to incorporate that generation with this generation and try to for the fans like yourself who are 60 to give them that chance of feeling young, and let them know. And it's like, oh wow, you mentioned that moment when Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, and the fact that even with Vince McMahon 2006 and all that, did they really actually come together? Did the relationship improve? Did he actually forgive Vince McMahon for such an embarrassment, for such a screw job, in terms of using the word that has been used to describe it? So I agree with you. I do think that it wouldn't have the same impact because a lot has changed since then, and people are still adamant that wrestling is scripted. So anything that happens, it's not. No wrestlers actually get hurt, which is not true. A lot of the wrestlers get injured, and they do get hurt, and it has
I
ruined
just gave the
their
example
careers.
of Shawn Michaels, 4.5 years out of wrestling.
Exactly. Right. And then we can talk about Goldberg and Bret Hart in terms of that injury that had forced, Bret Hart to have to retire. So those things, it actually shows that yeah, things are scripted at times. The outcomes of the matches are planned ahead most of the time, or the time that you think, or most of the time is probably the best thing to use. Because I'd rather not think that some of the outcomes are just raw and it just doesn't happen. No pun intended on that. But yeah, I agree with you, and I believe that the audience will be intrigued, and they'll be fascinated with your raw emotions. No pun intended. Once more, um, and you're feeling, maybe you still feel as how you felt then. Reflecting on all of what happened then. You spoke about 3 months you weren't able to sleep properly and all of that. I can only imagine you must have felt, because being a wrestling fanatic of that era, man, it must have been difficult for sure.
And Bret Hart was like my elder brother. I looked up to him as my elder brother. If I was worried, I would think about Bret Hart. If I would learn from him, if I would have a difficult day at the office, I would think about Bret Hart, that he comes up against the odds. He fight against the odds. He work hard. So I, for years and years, my mind looked up to and it trained looking at Bret Hart. So as much as people can say fake and all of that, these wrestlers inspire a generation. So, and that you can see in my other the sport that I do, analyze why I always go for like top thing, because Bret Hart, the mind was developed by the excellence of execution.
Well, um, I want to thank you very much. Montreal, I can't even talk. The Montreal Fiend for joining us here on WWE once more. You've become a very vivid personal to helping in these podcasts, these episodes, and we will always be appreciative of that. I'm sure that those who are watching right now, not many comments have come in, which is probably normal. But for those who may watch this after, could be months after, days after, weeks after, thank you for taking the time to actually click on this episode of the WWE podcast. This is a very monumentous moment in wrestling of that era, the early 2000s. It would really be fantastic if we were able to have these nostalgic match recaps. We reflect on more of things that would have happened. You never know, we could talk about some WrestleManias that were actually crazy, but we'll see what happens there. I know that an announcement was made on Thursday as well, Thursday night, about Royal Rumble and what could happen there. We'll obviously discuss what will happen. We'll see if a watch long will happen. um, a lot of discussions are happening behind the scenes. So at the time of this episode of WWE podcast, Montreal Screwjob, ahead of the Royal Rumble of 2025, which promises to be insightful and intense, we will decide on if the watch long will go ahead and what the plan will be. But keep your eyes peeled for that. And once more, I want to thank the Montreal Fiend, the veteran of the beautiful game. No pun intended, Jerry. I know you know what that comes from. So, any last words?
No, I was just getting emotional and keeping my emotional in check. I wish someday Bret Hart can watch this episode. That's all I would like to say.
Mm,
And thank you for having me, sir. Thank you for having me.
yes. All right. So, thank you guys so much for watching once more. And we'll see you in the next edition of the WWE podcast. But I cannot end it without doing this. So, let's go. Are you guys ready? Are you ready for this? The Montreal Field.
I am ready.
It's
I'm
just a
ready. I'm ready.
what WWV has just cooked up about the Montreal Screwjob. Thank you for watching, everyone. Peace and